be. All right, it's very limited on the actual college football news today, so I was thinking about something earlier. I want to bring it to you guys. Let us know what you think, what your answer is on the text line. Chris, by the way, that looks like a lot of fun. He brought his little guy golfing today, and it's going to snow tomorrow. What a world. We often talk about the great things about college football, what we love, the tailgating, all that stuff. What's the one thing about college football you hate the most?
Oh.
So tell us on the text line 601-879-4395, what is the thing about college football that you like the least?
Do you mean for me, other than the continued existence of the University of Mississippi?
Aside from that,
it's two things. One, hot weather games. Like, football's a fall sport, all right? We can figure this out to start the season a little later. We can figure this out to not have. I mean, it's just bad for everybody. Nobody enjoys going to the stadium between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. when it's 95 plus out. Nobody wants that. That's not how this sport is meant to be consumed. There's that. And then there's college football fans who can't handle their team being made fun of. Destroys me. It's like, it's supposed to be fun. There's that. But, like, there are people who just rip on their rivals. They'll just destroy them. And then as soon as you say, well, what about this? Oh, can't stand it. Can't stand it. So the game itself, to me, is basically perfect. Obviously, I have some issues with targeting, but, whatever. I don't have an issue. I've said this before. Like, I know that the sport is kind of limited in who can win a national championship. But that's sort of a microcosm of the world, isn't it? We're all kind of limited in what we can do in this life.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't bother me that it's the same 5 or 6 teams every year in the college football playoff. There is nothing I would rather do. If you tell me I have a day off and I'm not really going anywhere, than just to sit on my couch all day, order a pizza, order some wings, and just watch college football from 11 a.m. until midnight. Every year when the weekend state's off, that's what I do. I mean, just without exception. I love it so much. So I feel like I'm nitpicking.
No, that's exactly the point of the exercise. I've got a couple. The first is not necessarily, in fact, it's not at all college football's fault, but the way it's covered. I don't know if you guys knew this, but ESPN owns the rights to basically all the great college football conferences, teams, and games.
Mm-hmm.
They pay a lot of money for those rights. Hundreds of millions of dollars they pay to air college football games. And yet, they don't cover it like that. And sports media at large doesn't cover it like that. But time and time again, college football outrates everything that is not the NFL. College football's regular season does better than the NBA Finals. College football's regular season does better than the Major League Baseball playoffs and, in a lot of cases, the World Series. College football is the second most popular sport in this country. You've got 130 teams that play Division I football. You draw television-wise in the regular season way better than everything else. Everything else, way better. The highest-rated regular season baseball games will not come close to the top 3 college football games of any weekend you pick. Of any weekend you pick, it won't get there, and neither will the NBA. But yet, when you check out the worldwide leader, they don't even mention college football during their coverage. Most of the big publications, college football is an afterthought. You've got great people that cover the sport, but the people that own the rights to it and the way it's covered does not come anywhere close to matching the popularity of the sport. Drives me nuts.
And when they do cover it, it's all in the prism of the playoffs.
That's it.
There is no, let's talk about these other teams. It's all about the playoff teams.
And my second is length of games. I went to one.
See, that doesn't bother me.
I went to one game this year in person. The amount of downtime that exists in the game, in a game that lasted over 4 hours, is absurd. It's ridiculous. There's no momentum on the field, in the stadium, nothing. There is so much more standing around than you realize when you're watching at home. Because there's nothing happening. You have pauses in the game and then timeouts that last 3 minutes and then quarter breaks and halftime. There's so much nothing that happens in college football. It's not even anywhere close to the same in the NFL. NFL games are 3 hours, 3.5 hours, but it feels like the pace is better. College football's pace is too slow to me.
If
the games take too long, the pace is too slow.
It doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't. I don't notice that when the game itself is good. So got some good. We got a lot. I'm sure we were waiting on this, but here's one that I got to disagree with on the text line. Preseason polls have been screwing up the rankings for years. You're right, but there is nothing more joyful than watching an overrated team just tumble in the opening weeks.
I feel like you're talking about Texas specifically.
Oh, Texas, Auburn, Texas A&M, Notre Dame. Some years they've been better recently. Nothing better than seeing preseason number 7, and then at week 5 they're 2-3. I love that so much. That's the beauty of the game to me. Sometimes
a bunch of your texts came in. I promise you, we'll get to some of them next. College sports things you hate the most about college football. Chris in Boonville says scalpers. Well, luckily with trends, you might not have to deal with them as much anymore. Very few games that are.
I am with you on this one. Scalpers are the only people in the world. I'm about to go on a rant here.
Bring
I'll try to keep it short, but they're the only people in the world who are allowed to break the law in like broad daylight. It is against the law to scalp, but you go to a college football game and there are scalpers at every game, and none of them ever get arrested. Drives me absolutely insane. I hate scalpers.
Well, because they do the ironclad force field protection of their sign saying "I need tickets" instead of "I'm selling tickets."
I love getting the guy. Hey, you need tickets? Yeah, that guy said he was selling tickets. I love doing that to them. I do it almost at least once a season. I go tell a scalper, "You need tickets?" Yeah, that guy right there standing next to you says he has tickets. Good news.
Hot weather and referees. Lisa says the bathroom line.
Fair.
That's, State just kind of did a renovation. I'm sure they'll continue to update because you have to. Ole Miss is about to go through one. They need to double their bathroom capacity. That really sounds goofy, but they need to.
Well, State, to my knowledge, have they added a ton of restrooms? Despite the fact they added 25,000 seats? When that stadium was as 1991, right? It held 41-2. Now it holds 65. How many more bathrooms are there in terms of general admission?
Yeah.
I
remember thinking this, and some people may have had a different experience in the Superdome than me, but like the last Saints game I went to, I never waited to go to the bathroom, and the biggest line I experienced to get a beer or some food was one person in front of me. Every square foot of concourse had a bathroom or a concession item there. The whole thing, like right behind the seats, you go through the tunnel right behind the seats, the entire area that we were sitting in, the whole thing, after we went up the weird ramps they've gotten there that are totally enclosed, once we got to our level, every inch was a bathroom or a concession stand. I never waited for anything. I didn't miss a snap of football. Not one. That's what you should do. Yeah. And, I heard stories this season of people going to an Ole Miss game that missed almost an entire quarter trying to get one beer. Mm-hmm. That is totally unacceptable.
Heard the same. I've heard the same.
We already got the preseason polls. Huey says Nick Saban's dominance. He hates that the most. I hear you.
I always wonder if Nick Saban was in the North, would it be reversed? Like down here, everybody, they can't stand Alabama because they're so good every year in year out. What if he had just stayed at Michigan State and turned them into some stupid power? Like and down here we're just like, Michigan State, who cares, right? But like up north, they'd be like, God, I hate Nick Saban so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The hate up north for Ohio State. They've just owned everything for so long. It's kind of similar.
Yeah.
Patrick and Tupelo thinks the SEC network skews their coverage towards Alabama. That's the thing he hates the most.
You think? Did you say you think?
Well, I paraphrased what he said.
Okay.
He knows that that's what they do.
Yeah.
Another one, how when you lose 2 games, you're automatically out of it. That's the one thing I like about the NFL over college football. The playoff system is really good. Overall, though, college football is amazing.
Yeah. I definitely make, the playoff doesn't start in January. It starts in September.
Yeah. Some people like that. I don't know if I do. We get a couple of votes for traffic, having to wait in traffic after games. Joel in Batesville hates how long the games last. You go to a game at Ole Miss or State at 3 o'clock, and you're getting home, depending on where you live, late because the game doesn't even end until 7:30. You end up missing all of the games going on because of it.
Yeah.
Jeff in Macomb hates the pay games.
Oh, you mean like the games where you play a terrible opponent? Like
you play an FCS team, yeah.
I get that a lot because the tickets cost the same.
Yeah.
You pay the same to see Mississippi State play Ole Miss and Alabama that you do to see them play East Tennessee State. That's something they should change.
Sam, this cracked me up, said, if I can't pick Ole Miss, I'll pick Mark Curls as a person.
Fair. Not even harsh, just fair.
I know
the worst.
I know Richard rolls his eyes about stuff like this. And maybe I'm not going to charge the guy with being corrupt or anything. If the league cared, you wouldn't have a financial advisor based in Birmingham officiating games that feature teams from the state of Alabama. Right. If you really cared about that kind of stuff, that wouldn't happen. Even if he's not compromised, even if he's a perfect official and everything he does is great, a financial advisor in Birmingham should not be officiating games featuring teams from the state of Alabama. Yeah. It's really not hard to avoid that. It's really not hard, but they don't care.
This is a good one from Rob Hadaway on the Twitter line. This is oddball, but go with me. Half the distance penalties. If you commit pass interference at the 16, the ball should be placed at the 1. I agree.
Wait, say that one more time.
So, like, if you're at the 16 and you throw the ball into the end zone, it's half the distance to the goal.
Okay.
It should be at the 1. It should be a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, like a PI or
right.
Whatever. Yeah.
Right. So anything from the 16 in, pass interference, should be the ball should be at the 1.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I like that. Also, I think pass interference in college should be a spot foul.
So now you're going the other way with that. So
well, but for the rest of the field, I think it should be a spot foul.
So if you're at the 16 and the interference is at the 8, it should be at the 8.
Right. Because
okay. I can live with that.
Only because you have guys that clearly get beat on deep balls. That would be a 50-yard completion, and they grab the receiver to not let him catch the ball because you save 45 yards doing it. That yeah. I don't like.
It's strategy at that point.
Committing penalties is literally strategy.
Yeah, I agree.
Lack of AC in the upstairs bathroom at Davis Wade, west side of the field. That's very specific. I appreciate that.
You know what? That's a guy who's like, I love this sport, but this one thing is making me mad.
Zach says easy answer, the NCAA.
Fair enough.
Tyler and Brandon with a good one. I hate being stuffed into small seats like sardines. It's not just, man, I've been to an Ohio State game where the numbers, I wish you could see this, the numbers on the seats were at best 12 inches apart. And the seats, the actual seats, the width was probably 6 inches. My dad and I had to sit with our knees sideways in the seats so we weren't kneeing the people's head in front of us. And we're not that big. Like, we're not small guys. We're not big guys either. And we couldn't even fit in the seats there. It's a joke.